Okay, we're live. Yay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. So hi there. I'm Toby Neal. I am a USA Today best-selling author of mystery, thriller, memoir, and romance, and I am currently writing a lifestyle blog I'm really excited about called Cozy Living. And in the course of researching topics for cozy living and coming up with understanding deeper why it was drawing me in so much. I reconnected with my friend Shawna Robbins. We met each other in Maui like 20 years ago. We've taken different paths. She's gone on to also become a writer and a wellness coach. Would you call it a wellness coach? What do you like?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. A wellness coach for primarily women. And she has two wonderful books out. One is called Powerful Sleep, which I've read and, is a current topic as a woman in midlife. I think a lot of us struggle. And then she's also got Irresistibly Healthy, that is primarily cooking and nutrition. Is that right?
It is. And it's disease prevention for women as they age. Yeah.
Okay, you just, should take over the whole thing right now because, disease prevention for women as they age, yes, don't we all need that? Don't we
Yes.
need that so much? She's also here on Substack with Third Spark, right? The Third
Yep.
Spark,
Mhm.
which why don't you start by telling us what the Third Spark is?
So the third spark, what I call the third spark, is this time, this 30 years now that we have after menopause. Because the life expectancy for women 100 years ago, menopause was age 40, life expectancy was 47. Flash forward 100 years now, menopause, the average age for menopause is 50, and the life expectancy for women in the US is 82. So we have this extra 30 years that maybe our mothers, grandmothers, great grandmothers didn't have. And so I kind of thought it needed a rebrand. So I named it the third spark because I really see so many women in my coaching practice and in my personal life, my friends, my family, where women are just really coming into their own in this stage in the game.
Mhm,
Whether it's their career, whether it's travel. I know women that are adopting children in their 50s, like
mhm,
whatever it is that you want to do, all of a sudden now it seems like after the hormone shift, after perimenopause, the
mhm,
hell of perimenopause is over, things kind of calm down.
mhm.
What do you do for yourself? What is this time period in your life about? What's your mission? What's your passion? What's your purpose? That to me is what the third spark is.
I love that. I love that, and I think that anyone who's ever been an empty nester goes through that first phase of "Oh, here's what happens when you're done mothering as a full-time thing, plus probably you have work as well," and then there's, for me, heading for the finish line of potential retirement, which as a self-employed person, probably not ever gonna happen, but it's, 65 is a nice, round number for things to begin to slow down or take a more leisurely direction, shall we say. So cozy living is happening for me, I believe, as a result of the stressful times we're in. I don't know about you, Shauna, but the last couple of years have felt as stressful as COVID for me.
I agree.
With the just the negativity in the news, and all the worries and fears that people have, and the unrest in our country, the United States. So that has made me want to go inward. And of course, what's interesting is I have 62 books, but the ones that are selling, the ones that people are reading, are this cozy mystery series that I just started. I only started this a couple, two, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago, kind of on a whim. I'm like, oh, I'm tired of dark themes and serial killers. I think I'll just, have some the highest stakes is like, oh, there's a dirty land deal going down, and it's a little imaginary town on Maui, so I get to vicariously live there, and there's a cat detective, and it's local people, and it's just fun, and it's low stakes, it's cozy.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't expect it to love it, and I didn't expect my readers to really love it because a lot of my books, they're crime fiction. They're fairly serious in tone, and I always have these, like, glimmers of happy things that's kind of my trademark, but and a happy ending that's also sort of a trademark, and unusual in the genre, but um, the cozies are where it's at. And so when I decided to change the direction of my Substack and really dive into cozy living and analyze the concept of hygge that was trendy and, during the pandemic,
Right.
I felt like it was fresh for me all over again. And as I've gotten into it more, and really, last week I dug into my values and
Mhm.
unearthing where they came from in my hippie background growing up on
Mhm.
Kauai. Um, that was just really revelatory. And so, as we talk a little bit about how healthy for you cozy living is, I think this is the perfect time to ask you a few more questions. So, folks, if
Yeah.
you're listening and you're like, who are these ladies? Check out my interview with Shawna. It was a two-part interview on cozy living, and we had some really great back and forth in written form, and then that's what's led to this talk. So I want to just expand and develop some of those ideas that we did in the interview as well. Does that sound
Yeah.
good?
So fun. And I'm so glad everybody's here. Hello, everyone that's here. I keep seeing more and more
I love it.
people
I see.
pop on. So it's great to have
Yes.
this community of people here that really value this as a lifestyle because
Mhm.
I said this to you and I say it over and over again to my clients. I think that nervous system regulation right now is like gold. It's like the most
Mhm.
important thing that you can be doing is taking care of your nervous system. And when you learn what works for your body, because everybody's different, you learn what works for you, then you can really bring yourself to a state of parasympathetic nervous system, which goes such a long way in healing and restoring your body and keeping yourself healthy over a longer period of time. We need
Mhm.
this resilience in our system. We're not meant for this 24-hour news cycle of war and drama and
Yep.
all this stuff that we're dealing with. At
Yep.
least with COVID, we were at home, right?
Right.
So being
Yep.
cozy and being in our jammies all day and making sourdough toast or sourdough bread from scratch, we
Mhm.
had the time to do that.
Mhm.
And but now the world hasn't shut down. If anything, it's sped up. So now
Right.
we need to create this little cozy bubble for ourselves. And I love that
That's right.
this is what you're offering your readers because it has a huge value for your health and your well-being.
Yeah, I feel like I was coming to it instinctively myself, but also as a mental health professional. So,
Mhm.
if folks didn't know, I'm also a licensed clinical social worker and I am a therapist part time. And seeing my clients getting more and more stressed out with the news and things like that, and it again, it was just like this is what's feeling nourishing for me, and I want to be where it's nourishing, not so much to hide from the world,
Mhm.
but to recharge so that when we do decide that we need to be active in some way, in some form, it's a very thoughtful decision. It's a very powered up decision. It comes from a place of strength. So, like, in case it sounds like, oh, everybody's going to go home and make sourdough again, which in fact we actually are at our house making
I know. I
sourdough.
saw Mike made some great sourdough about a week
My
ago.
husband has gotten totally into the bread making thing, and the thing about sourdough that I never knew was that it's a fully 2-day process. There's
Mm.
no way you can speed that up and get anything to eat in less than 2 days. So, it's kind of been, it's anyway, it it's a struggle to keep the carbs down, let's just say that, but I do love what's happening. So, I have, a few more questions for you,
Sure.
Shauna. Um So I'm gonna just read because I prepped.
Yeah,
Most
good.
people
I
most
didn't,
people
so we'll see what I have to say.
you're just so sharp. You'll
It's like
just be right
Jeopardy.
on it,
I
I
don't know what's
know.
coming at me, so we'll have to see what you give me, Toby.
So most people think self-care means a weekend retreat or a spa day.
Mm,
But as you explained in our interview, that my end of the day workday ritual with putting the kettle on, putting my favorite shawl on, looking out the window at nature, that was doing real physiological work.
mhm.
Could you break down what's happening in the body during a small ritual like that?
Well, first off, the body loves rituals and it starts in the gut. So, the microbiomes that live in your gut, and you have microbiome all over your body. But the ones specifically in your gut, absolutely love to have a ritual. And that is
Mhm.
your sleep wake cycle. They love it when you go to bed at the same time, when you wake up at the same time. They love it when you have consistent food, eating times. So, get up and have breakfast when it feels good to you, have lunch, have a light snack, have dinner, however it is that your body likes to eat. That is how you need to just keep this consistency.
Mhm.
Even like when I work with clients that try to, maybe wean themselves down or off of alcohol, I always have them put, if they're using sparkling water instead of white wine or
Mhm.
rosé or whatever, I have
Mhm.
them put it in the same glass. I have them drink it at the same
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
right? It's so much
Mhm.
easier to develop a healthy habit when you take a ritual that the body finds really comforting and you just simply
Mhm.
level up that in itself. So, just the fact that you have a ritual
Mhm.
is really important for the system because the
Mhm.
system likes to know what's coming at it, right?
Mhm.
So, you're
Those are the
hardwired,
things
yeah, to have this
that
stress
make us feel
response.
safe. They
That's
make us
right.
feel safe.
That's right.
Mhm.
And so the more
Mhm.
you create ritual in your life, actually, the calmer your nervous system can be because it knows what to anticipate. And it's not to say that I don't love spontaneity or I don't
Mhm.
like change. Some people love change. For other people, change is really
Mhm.
hard. But if you have just certain rituals that you really love,
Mhm.
I think that that is a wonderful way to show your body, okay, now we transition from work to
Mhm.
home. I mean, like, I
Mhm.
always think about Mr. Rogers, right? And the way
Mhm.
that he would come in the front door and sing and then sit down and change his shoes
Yeah.
and change his jacket. I mean, my father, obviously, our families are different, right? I mean, I know your
Yeah.
background. My background, my father worked a corporate job and then worked for himself and his own company. And he would do that. He would come home, he would change his clothes, he would change his shoes, and then he would
Mhm.
sit down and say, how was everybody's day? Like then he was able to engage. He had to have that
Mhm.
ritual of literally taking off one persona and then being able to step
Mhm.
into something else.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I like that you have that ritual for yourself. And I think that the things that you do during the ritual then are also important. So it's
Mhm.
respecting the ritual and then making sure that within that you're making a healthy choice. And so looking at nature, listening to music, putting the kettle on,
Mhm.
those are all limbic system things.
Mhm.
And the limbic system is the part of your body that helps to control your sympathetic nervous system, which is what we live in all day long, which is our fight and flight, survival, make sure we're always ready to go in case we got to run from a bear, right? Because this is how we're biologically
Yeah.
wired. To the parasympathetic, where we can rest and digest and restore our bodies. And
Mhm.
so the limbic system is this wonderful go between these two things from the amygdala, which is that monkey brain,
Mhm.
that sympathetic nervous system, which is important. But to make that switch, sometimes the limbic system needs a smell or a
A
touch
cue, like a
or
cue.
a sound, the birds singing or
Yep.
music or something to touch, something to like I was thinking you're talking about sourdough and the cards and all I can think about is the smell. Like I
Right.
would love
It's
the
true.
smell of the sourdough in my
Yeah.
house. For me, that would be enough, even if I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
eat it.
It
That would
actually
be enough.
I'm really making do with that. I'm really trying to make do with that because I just it's not been a good thing for the
Right.
thighs, but
Well, but the limbic system is what's in charge
Mhm.
of making this shift. And like right now, my mom is dealing with frontal temporal lobe dementia, and she's so out of touch with reality of what's happening because her brain is no longer able to process the information the same way. But if I play music, she'll get up and dance. Or if I
Mm.
bring her
Mhm.
something that is a special
Mhm.
treat that I used to eat as a child, she gets giddy and she starts to remember things again. And she'll remember my birthday just from having something just even put in front of her, or a taste in her mouth, a spoonful of ice cream, she'll
Mhm.
remember. So again, there's the limbic system really
Yep.
triggering this full body response, um,
Mhm.
that helps us just reconnect.
Right. Well, that kind of leads really beautifully into my next question, which is that you walked through your own cancer diagnosis and then 12 years of caregiving for your dad and now your mom. What is the one thing you wish someone had handed you during those years to keep you grounded? What would you have wanted to know when you first started this journey?
So it's funny because the first thing that pops into my mind is a hug. Like,
Oh,
just to have
mhm.
like a person that would hug me a couple times
Yeah.
a day, every day. Because I understand physiologically why that's important, but you can't, just to be able to feel that safety
Mhm,
of someone who cares about me, where I
mhm,
can feel safe. And what I
mhm,
do, I teach my clients how the human body has what's called the hierarchy of hormones. And this is true across men and women. Our body makes our hormones in a certain importance level. The most important hormone that we all make is called oxytocin. And
mhm,
oxytocin is that bonding hormone, it's that love
mhm,
hormone. It's the
mhm,
one that you get when you hold your baby, or when you're
mhm,
nursing, or, anytime you have physical touch or you snuggle with a pet.
mhm,
When you make oxytocin, the next hormone down is cortisol. Second most important, right?
mhm,
Because we all need to survive. And then the third one is insulin, because we need to be able to process energy and food, and be
mhm,
able to like
mhm,
actually get up and move around. And so, but when the oxytocin is highlighted in the system through some physical touch or connection or bonding,
mhm.
the body can't make cortisol and oxytocin at the same time because oxytocin is more important. So I
Right.
actually have clients that I coach with that travel all over the world.
Mhm.
I work with solo female travelers, and I've taught them to do this thing because sometimes they're alone, or if you've
Are
lost
you
your
gonna
partner.
tell me it's a self-hug?
Yes, it
Because
is.
I do a
It is
self-hug with my clients every time we end a
so
session.
important.
And I'm just like, at first they feel awkward with it, and then I'm just like, "Okay, it's time for the self-hug,"
And I
and
say
we're
do
giving.
this too. It's a
Yes.
hug and a rub. And those two
Yeah.
things
Yep.
stimulate the
Mhm.
body to make more oxytocin, which automatically, naturally lowers the cortisol levels.
I am just
So,
so
yeah.
happy
See,
with that
you already know.
confirmation. I knew that for me, I do exclusively telehealth but I'm a Hawaii person and we hug people and
Yeah.
it just didn't feel like right at the end that there was no hug. And of course, there's plenty of people who don't like hugs and all that. I
Mhm.
respect all
Right.
that. But
Right.
I felt a lack, and so I began to just include it. This is how we end our session. We're gonna self-hug, we're together, we're exchanging eye contact.
Yep.
I have them do some breathing. I have,
Mhm.
breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, and then I have them repeat, "You are safe, you are loved, you are right where you're supposed to be."
Love
And,
that.
invariably, there's, like, this release and this smile and this, like, "I feel better." And therapy can be very hard work. We go to some dark places and some sad places, and to you need to feel good at the end. And so this is a tiny cozy ritual. I hope those of you who are watching will take with you and remember that no shame in the self hug, man.
Nope.
Get
Nope.
into it. Give yourself a little
Build your
squeeze and
oxytocin how much
yep.
you can. It's funny, my daughter is not a hugger at all. I try to put my arm
Mhm.
around her and she leans away from me,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
but she loves her cat in her lap, and
Mhm.
or even just laying on her body. And
Mhm.
so that's her thing, right? That's
Right.
how she builds her
Yeah.
oxytocin.
Yeah.
And so that physical touch, no matter how you get it, even if you're not a physical touch person, like you said,
Mhm.
it's really important. And it's such an easy hack to the body. And it's such a
Right.
great way to naturally bring down your cortisol levels. Sometimes I do it at night. If I wake up in the middle of the night because I'm worried about something or ruminating
Mhm.
on something, I will just kind of snuggle up in a little ball and hold myself
Mhm.
and say, "You're
Mhm.
safe. You're okay. You're loved." And then
Mhm.
sure enough, within a few minutes, I'm right back to sleep.
Wow, we are really on the same page, aren't we, Shauna? That's
I didn't even know
amazing.
this about you, Joe.
Well, thank you for that. And you said another thing in your interview. You said that busyness can become an armor against vulnerability. And I felt that in my bones, when you said that. And how do you help high achieving women actually believe they're allowed to rest? They're allowed to take a day off. They're allowed to let things go.
It's hard, but it's a mindset shift.
Yeah.
And we work really, really hard on allowing themselves to create space. Sometimes they literally have to book it in their calendar. They have
Mhm.
to time block
Mhm.
out however long they can do, whatever feels it's not overwhelming. For some women, it's 20 minutes. For some, it's an hour. It just totally
Mhm.
depends on where they're at emotionally. But finding that space and then committing to it, whether it's
Mhm.
first thing in the morning, at night before they go to bed, maybe sometime in the afternoon, but that just making sure that you make time in your life, in your schedule every single day to just do nothing. I call it my do nothing time. I started
Yeah.
that during COVID. That was my cozy habit, my
Mhm.
cozy living habit
Mhm.
that I did, where I challenged myself to just look out the window for 10 minutes. It was
Mhm.
really hard at first because I had a
Mhm.
very hard time meditating. I just couldn't get the brain to stop.
Right.
And even I listened to meditations, I watched meditation, I tried all this different stuff. And what I found worked for me was a chair in my bedroom looking out my window at a fountain, and 10 minutes a day was my commitment.
Mhm.
And over time, that's grown now till about 30 minutes. And now I have a chair in
Oh,
my office
wow.
right here.
That's
And I
impressive.
and I time block it. I look forward to it. I
Mhm.
literally crave it. It's kind of like once you get in a good exercise routine,
Mhm.
you start to crave it when you miss it. Or once you start
Mhm.
eating healthier fruits and vegetables, and
Mhm.
then you don't, like maybe you go traveling or you get sick or it's the holidays and you kind of indulge it, you feel it. You're like, ugh, I
Mhm.
don't feel good.
Mhm.
I don't feel like myself. I actually want to have, a fresh piece of fruit or a salad or something. It's the
Mhm.
same thing with my do nothing time. I notice things sitting looking out my window that I never would have noticed before, whether it's
Mhm.
neighbors and dogs or birds or bunnies. I saw a bunny a couple of days ago. That bunny could have been in my yard for a year and I never would have known it. But
Mhm.
because I sat there and actually focused on something other than my deadlines, my work projects, my
Mhm.
whatever, right? Blah, 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 whatever,
Mhm.
it allowed me to just be in the present moment, which allowed me to bring my nervous system down so it could reset itself.
I don't think there's anything cozier than that kind of connection with your interior life, and unfortunately, I think, my son actually calls this the demon box.
It's true. Good
And
name
I
for it.
feel like, one of our biggest addictions and enemies to peace of mind and cozy living is our phones.
Yeah.
How do you suggest people begin to break the hold that the phones have on us and the constant need for those little dopamine hits of somebody liking our comment or somebody it's such a it's such a black hole. It's like it creates this cycle of need that never gets satisfied. It only gets worse. And should people go cold turkey? Should they cut back? Like how do you recommend getting
That's such an
space?
individual choice. Like, I never recommend really that anybody goes cold turkey on anything because I think that it's
Mhm.
just not sustainable, right? It doesn't matter if it's a
Mhm.
diet, we all know they don't work, or if
Mhm.
it's cutting out your phone, or if it's cutting out alcohol or sugar or caffeine. If you just go cold turkey on something, that's all you're going to think about. That's all you're going to want to do, right? It,
Mhm.
it makes it
Mhm.
more desirable for you. And
Mhm.
so, if anything, I'm all about trading out one habit for another. So,
Mhm.
like you said, dopamine is the core responder that you're getting in your
Mhm.
brain every single time. And so I would just, what I recommend doing and what I do with my kids and what I do with my clients and myself. First of all, I have 60 minutes before bed, everything goes off. The TV goes off,
Mhm.
my phone goes
Mhm.
off. Anything that emits blue light goes off. And I
Mhm.
do something for me. That could
Mhm.
be taking a warm bath or a warm shower. That could
Mhm.
be stretching. That could be reading an actual book not an
That's what
ebook.
I
I read
do.
an
That's
actual
what I
book,
do.
pages.
I read paper at night. That's my
Or a
routine.
magazine,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
something that it could even be something I've read 100 times,
Yeah.
right? It's whatever. I just ask myself, what do I feel like reading? And I just
Mhm.
reach for something and I open up
Mhm.
to a page. I've been doing that lately. I have like a Marianne Williamson book by my bed and I just open up to a random page and
Mhm.
there's brilliance on that page that somehow
Right.
speaks to me
Yeah.
about where I'm at. And so um, so there's this creating a new ritual, right,
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
evening that doesn't
Mhm.
involve anything electronic.
Right.
That's a really big thing. And
It's
you do
just too
that.
stimulating. It's
Yeah,
too and it's in its way
yeah,
super addictive. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And then looking
Mhm.
for other ways during the day to build your dopamine levels so you don't have cravings for it in the evening.
Mhm.
And so, we use our phones not only for dopamine, but we also use our phones just as a means to connect with
Mhm.
one another. Like,
Yeah.
I know my kids live on the East Coast, my two older kids. So, like, I want to see what they're up to. And I haven't had a chance all day to connect
Mhm.
with them. And they're working and they're in school and they have their lives. And I don't want to be bugging them all the time. But I'm like, oh, I want to see what they posted. I want to see what they liked. I want to see, because I
Mhm.
want to feel closer to them because I miss them.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
And so I found that if I just spend time during the day, just maybe sending them a little note saying, hey, just wanted you to know I was thinking about you, or
Mhm.
good luck on your test, or
Mhm.
I hope the presentation at work went well. Then I don't feel that need to kind of have to hover around social media looking for that
Mhm.
connection,
Mhm.
and that's helpful
I'm
for
so
me.
glad you mentioned the mom lurker trend
Yeah.
'cause, it's a thing.
Because it's for me, it's not for them, right? It's
Oh, yeah.
it's filling a need
Mhm.
inside of me. And so there's that piece. And then there's also other things you can do for your dopamine during the day, right? That I really, really love to do, like getting out in nature. It's
Yeah.
really amazing for your
Mhm.
dopamine.
Mhm.
I love in the morning when I take a shower, I turn it quickly to cold just to get a little bit of cold water on my body. I don't believe that women should be cold plunging the way that men do. It's a very discomforting and very disruptive to our adrenal system. But a little bit goes a long way. And just do what you can take. And it's like, it's amazing the brain clarity that comes from that. And
I can't
exercise.
I just can't believe that you mentioned that because here's question number 4. I take cold
There
showers.
you go.
So
See?
I grew up taking cold showers.
Of course.
We had no hot water. You know,
Right.
sometimes one of the houses that we lived at before I moved out, literally it was just a hose tied to a tree. And so that is like for me that's how you wake up. You know, that's
Mhm.
all you have is cold water. So to me, I but we have a hot tub, which feels like the most decadent part of the Roman Empire to me, like, that I get to go into this hot tub at any time, but I follow it with a cold shower, and it is such an incredible I can just feel my whole circulation system going, "Woohoo!" You know, like those Norwegians were really onto
Yep.
something with,
Yep.
you know, the cold plunge and the hot. So, I had a question around that, which is maybe I'm yowling the whole time, but it works better than coffee. What is actually happening in the nervous system? Is there a right way to use cold exposure without it becoming just another form of self punishment, that kind of like rah thing that we do
No.
to ourselves?
No, it should be supportive. It should make you feel
Hmm.
good. It should be refreshing, right? Like for women who have thyroid issues, it probably is not going to feel that great to them, right? Because anything
Hmm.
cold is very disturbing to the system. It's not going to work for everybody, but if you love it, I think it's an amazing thing to do. It opens up your vagus nerve. It helps get, the dopamine that's made in your gut up to your brain quicker. Your brain can absorb it faster. Like you said, it reverses the circulatory system, which is really great for blood flow. You're getting,
Hmm.
nutrients into
Yeah,
your system. You're getting,
it's like
yeah,
going out when you're
oxygen.
hot, and then it's
Yeah,
like
you're
running
oxygenating
in.
everything.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And so, I always say women should be in like 40 to 45-degree water, probably not anything colder. We're not like
Hmm.
men. We can't just sit into an ice bucket for 15 minutes
Yeah.
and give it like a minute, minute and a half. That's
Hmm.
about it. That's all
Hmm.
you need.
Right.
Something, I mean, I remember as a kid, my mom used to make me do it just because she said it made my hair shiny. I don't know if that was just a thing in the 70s, but she's like, when you're done, turn the water to cold. So let it
Hmm.
rinse on your hair and it'll, make your hair shiny. It was horrible and I hated it. But now I see what a value it is
Mhm.
for my mental and emotional well-being.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
that's really great, and the hair shiny thing, I heard that too. I think it had to do with this the follicles, I don't know,
I don't know.
the surface of the hair lies down, I don't know, urban
I don't know.
legend,
I don't know
maybe
that it
somebody
ever
else
would.
knows.
But it has other benefits that I think are great. But yeah, build your dopamine during the day. You know, the other thing that I do for dopamine, I have to say it here, I eat chocolate. I love chocolate. You get a great dopamine
Mm,
hit. Darker
yeah.
chocolate, the better. It's full of flavonoids. Your gut bacteria loves it.
Mhm,
80% or more have it earlier in the day because it has caffeine, but a little bit of
mhm,
chocolate, a little bit of dark chocolate, especially for women, you build
mhm.
oxytocin, you get dopamine. To me, that's a win-win. I think it's I do
Oh,
it medicinally.
excellent. I'm gonna take a note on that one.
Oh,
I
that's
love
great.
that. I love that. Um, so, almost everything that I do instinctively for cozy living turns out to have a physiological poof, explanation. Do you think living could be ancient wisdom that modern science is maybe catching up to?
100%. 100%. So I just did a whole month worth of gut health on Substack, every week a different topic. One of the topics I talked about was fermentation. And, fermentation is so easy and inexpensive. You can do it in your kitchen. And it's this old world way of preserving food, giving yourself healthy bacteria that we need as we age because our gut becomes less and less diverse, which is actually how you end up developing illnesses as you age. You need to have diversity in your gut. As women lose their estrogen through the menopause journey, they lose diversity in their gut. And so it's really important that you're replenishing that. And so, for example, taking something like fermentation, where, like you said, with sourdough bread, it's a
Mhm,
slow process. You
mhm,
need to wait, you need to plan, you need to be organized, you need to be orderly. Those things were all part of prior generations. And there's so much wisdom to living like that.
mhm,
I think it's really, really important. In fact, before we did this, my social media manager was like, I need you to send me some videos of you doing things quickly. And then we're going to clip together a reel and say, if you stop living like this, you can actually have a more whole body system healing when you live a more slower paced life and you wash your dishes slower. So I'm in
mhm,
the kitchen, like scrubbing my counters and
mhm.
vacuuming my floors just for these videos, right? But I tell you, it got me worked up. I was really
Right,
worked up. I was
yeah,
stressed out making these videos,
mhm.
right? And I thought, wow, look at this full body physical response that I'm having. My
It's a
body thinks
whole
I'm,
artificial thing, and
yeah,
yet it created it within you. That's
right.
so
My body thinks
interesting.
I'm in a stressful state right
Right,
now, even though
right.
I'm doing these videos, right? And I'm in this quiet house all by myself. There's no bear chasing me, but
Mhm.
you can literally create it in your mind and in your body by how
Oh,
quickly you
100%.
move. And that
Yeah.
could be how you eat, how you cook, whatever it is that you do, right? We just rush through our lives and we just keep ourselves in this heightened fight or flight state. And we can change that at any time. We have
Right,
control over how we breathe, over how slowly we chew,
right.
over what we pay attention to. Are we focusing on our feet on the floor? Are we thinking about our deep breathing? Or are we just in our head somewhere, catastrophizing or worrying about
Doom
the past
scrolling.
future? Yeah, or doom scrolling, right? And taking other people's energy in.
Mhm.
All of those things we can put up our force fields around and make different choices. We just have to remember that we're the ones in control of that.
I think the mainstream media and many of these platforms that we spend so much time on would love for us to forget that we're the ones in control of
Mhm.
any of it because they just want us consuming more and more and more and creating more and more for them and they feed off of us. And so I think now is a really good time to be taking back your autonomy as a
Yeah.
human being and treating
Yes.
yourself like a human, not a consumer
Right.
of whatever, you know? So that's kind of my moment in that is like realizing, you know what? I don't want to be a slave to any of this anymore. I want to be very deliberate about everything I'm allowing in and everything that I'm giving out. And that feels like a powerful choice right now.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Mhm.
Being in charge and being fully responsible for your own mindset, your health, your wellness, your sleep, your boundaries that you have in your life, all of those things, like you said, are incredibly empowering and forms of power, especially that women have not been taught or offered in our society. We need to create that for ourselves. We might not have role models that showed us how to do it. I certainly don't have any. My mother, grandmother, they didn't know. They were good girls. They did everything that everyone else needed them to do. And
Mm,
so I feel like I'm here to break that generational patterning by
mhm.
really looking at the things in my life that serve me, being really clear and honest about that, and the
Yeah.
things that don't.
And yet you're stepping into and you're in this very frontline caregiver role with your
Mhm,
parents, and you're raising a young daughter still at home, and you're working and have a career. So,
mhm.
you know, it's and my sister's the one, really frontline with our folks. Um, so when you're in that position, how do you say no to the needs that are so pressing, that seem like more pressing than your own needs?
I just went through this situation exactly like what you mentioned, where because I'm my mother's medical proxy, I'm
Yeah,
her POA, and we had seen her doctor in January, and the doctor said, she's lost a fair amount of weight, and that actually is a trigger for hospice if you're interested. And I was like, no, 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 we're not there yet. No, no, I
yeah,
can't. I
mhm,
can soldier on more, right? I got more in me, and mom's not there yet. And I just went into this whole thing. And then, sure enough, another month went by, and we went to see the doctor, and she lost another 6 pounds. And the doctor reminded me again, gently, Shauna, you have this option. No, 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 no. And so it's like it's receiving the help. And then finally in March, my husband wanted me to take a trip with him, and I thought, I can't. I can't leave.
right,
I can't leave mom.
right,
And it dawned on I sent a little message to her doctor on the portal, and I just said, I just don't know what to do. I really want to go on this trip, but I know I can't leave mom. And she said again to me 3 times, Shauna, if you just engage with hospice, I could be her hospice doctor. I could check on her while you're gone. She could have skilled nursing. She could be on hospice for years. It's not just an end of life thing. And I finally just went, okay.
mm,
And I realized all this time the options were right in front of me. I was just refusing to take them. And
yeah,
so that was a big lesson for me of, okay, help is all around. I just have to let others in.
and let go and
Yep.
let be.
Yep.
It is a process of loss though, Shauna. You're grieving along the way, the loss of your mom as you go into each stage. So
Yeah.
it really can't be rushed, and there's no
No.
right or wrong way to go
Yep.
about any of that.
Well,
Um,
the anticipatory grief, I don't feel like people talk about enough of that. And cozy living for me has become a way for me to process this anticipatory grief
yeah.
of watching a person that you love so deeply literally just, there's no cure, there's no treatment, there's no medication, there's nothing we can do, just go home kind of thing. I mean, the medical community doesn't have anything to offer for dementia or Alzheimer's at this
Mhm,
stage in the game. And so that anticipatory grief is really intense to carry. And so the more I can help my nervous system re-regulate itself,
yeah.
the
Mhm,
better off I can cope with everything that you just mentioned that I'm doing. It actually doesn't feel that overwhelming, but
right.
I have to do the work. Again, it comes
Yep.
back to this autonomous choice. I have to let others help me. I have to ask for help.
Mhm.
I have to make sure I'm feeding myself the right foods. I have to make sure that I'm slowing down and that I'm making time for the things that make my body feel good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting realization. One of the core I think the core moments of adulthood is realizing that no one can really rescue you
Right.
ever. It
Right.
always has to come from within. And then, of course, whatever your faith practice is and your other tools and your friendships and community and stuff.
Right.
I think a lot of us keep waiting for there's some other answer, and it's like, no. it's you. You have to make the call. You're the one who decides when your workday is over
Mhm,
and when you're gonna unload or unload the dishwasher and how
mhm.
much you're gonna tolerate in behaviors from people around you or workplaces or politics or wherever they are intruding from. It's only you who can protect yourself.
Yep.
And and again, always go back to not just to hide from the world and become an
Mhm.
agoraphobic, but
No.
to recharge so
Right.
that we can be more effective and more powerful when we do engage. It's from a position of choice, like you really looking in the eye and giving up some things with your mom so that the time you have with her is more precious, more real, more vital in the moment.
Yep.
That makes a lot
Exactly.
of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important. It's so important to do. I think it's just a better way for women in this stage of the game, in this third spark, like we talked about in the beginning, to really, we spent what the first two sparks, I call it, of our lives, pretty much the first 50 years showing up for everybody else. Now it's time for
Mhm,
us to show up for
mhm,
ourselves.
mhm. Yeah, that's a great note to wrap up on. I'm actually out of questions. Did you have anything you wanted to ask me, or do you have any more points you wanna share with the anybody?
No, I don't know if anybody has any questions for us who's here that's joined us today. Certainly,
Mhm.
write something down, write in a message there. Maybe Toby
Yeah,
can see it. But
ab
I just really appreciate. I wrote about in the article how Cozy was running into you again after the
mhm.
fact that I've known you since 2002, and I hadn't seen you in I don't even know how many years, 10
Like,
years,
close
15
to
years.
at least
At,
15,
at
at least
least.
15.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah, and the idea of, like, having those friendships that are through time, and you might not see each other all the time, you might not even live in the same place, you might not even orbit the same world together,
mm,
but when you reconnect with somebody that's known you through different stages of your life, to me, that was the ultimate cozy living, right? It's just to be able to connect with you again, so I really appreciate you making the time to chat with me today, and I hope that, everybody got what they were looking for, and I hope that they took something with them that is beneficial. Maybe one thing that they can try that they learned today from our conversation where they can just find ways that work for them to reset their nervous system and just valuing that as, like you
right.
said, a source of power. I think that's really,
Mhm.
really important.
Right on. Well, cool thing that I discovered from my experiment with, doing this live, it will be reposted
Mhm.
automatically on my blog, and you can share it and we
I
can
will.
so anybody who wasn't here, please plan on throwing something in the comments that maybe
Mhm.
stood out to you or that you have more questions about, and do check out, Shauna's amazing Substack and her talks. There's just so much good information on there. And to me, it's just felt like synchronicity. And synchronicity is one of my favorite words in the whole universe because it's so full of magic. And it really is about magic and the magic of connecting at just the right time and the magic of the things you brought up that, happened to be you did not see the questions that
Yeah.
I had, and they were synchronous to
Mhm.
things that just emerged naturally, and so whenever that's going on, we know good things are happening, so
Yeah. That's great. Super. Well,
all
thank
right,
you, Toby. I
well,
appreciate it.
thanks again.
Aloha.
Take care.
Aloha, everyone
Aloha.
who's here.
Bye.
Bye.